Hey there, this is Gabe Belanger. Good afternoon, and I'm here to talk to you today about the changes coming with Microsoft 365. So, Microsoft 365 email and the other services that you might have with them, they're going to be affected. So, the important changes to Microsoft 365 and learning how to avoid a lockout. You don't want to be in a situation where you're not able to access your Microsoft 365 email or your OneDrive files or your desktop software or other apps in Microsoft 365 ecosystem. So let's look at a little bit about this. So first of all, we see here that starting March 11th, 2024, security defaults will be implemented um, for cloud solution providers. So this is for a large number of people who provide Microsoft 365 for business. So this will probably be affecting your account if you're watching this video. If it's a home account, you don't need to worry. So March 11th, 2024, we'll be rolling out security defaults. So what security defaults mean is that you're going to have to enable Microsoft um, multi-factor authentication. If you don't do it on March 11th, they're going to remind you for 14 days, and then you will require to have these multi-factor authentication set up. So I just wanted to go through that with you to help you navigate the process. So let's take a look here, multi-factor authentication. So most of us might maybe have heard of multi-factor authentication, what it is. Generally speaking, you log into an account. Let's pretend it's a bank account or any account on a web page, and then you get a code texted to you, or you get a code generated on a security app. You type the code in, and then the login completes. Without typing in the code that comes to your cell phone, you can't do the login. So it puts two levels of security, which is quite good. If you don't have multi-factor authentication and someone knows your username and password, they can just log in and you would not be aware of it. So multi-factor gets in the way and requires that you do something on your cell phone to set up a trusted device. So I'll get into that a little bit more. Uh, you need to set this up before March 11th, 2024, for the Microsoft Business accounts that are getting changed over, which should be most of these accounts. Okay, you could delay it another 14 days. They give you 14 days, but why wait? Why wait to be locked out or have trouble getting this set up in general and then be in a panic? Uh, do I have to do this every time? So if I log into Microsoft 365, do I have to go through the process of putting in a code from my cell phone to get access to my email or access to my files on OneDrive or my Microsoft 365 apps? And the answer is no. Once you've set up the device as being trusted, uh, you're not going to be prompted every time to put in this code. Your device is trusted. Now, could Microsoft say that, yeah, you're going to need to provide us that code 6 months down the road? Yes, they can. They can challenge you in this way. And because you've got this set up working, you will be expected to use it. So I would say once your device is set up and trusted, the first time you won't have to enter the code for quite a while, but you might be challenged by Microsoft. So you may as well get on this as soon as you can. So can you turn off the Microsoft 365 security defaults? These are the things, these defaults are requiring you to have multi-factor authentication. And based on my research, and I have to say research because Microsoft's not always open about this, but based on my research, yes, you can turn these off. So come March 11th, if they get turned on for you, you can turn them off and you go back to normal. But Microsoft may re-enable it again without warning or make it mandatory anytime. They really just want to get this done. So we're kind of delaying the inevitable. And maybe, a little while after March 11th, they'll just say, okay, it's now mandatory. Maybe they'll just turn it on randomly. In the past few months, they had been turning on security defaults randomly for several clients that I have. And we would have to come in and either turn it off or set up multi factor authentication so people can still work. So multi-factor authentication, let's watch the step-by-step video that I did to go over this. And just note, these security defaults are not just multi-factor authentication, but this is probably the most impactful. So in my video, I'm going to go through how to get multi-factor authentication up and running on an account that doesn't have it set up. And sorry, parts of the Microsoft Authenticator app for my cell phone are blacked out. It's a security feature. So let's go
All
through.
right, so the first thing that we need to do is we need to go to office.com. Once we're in office.com, you need to log into your Microsoft 365 account. So that's what I'm going to show you here on a pre-recorded video. So again, you go to office.com, log into your Microsoft 365 account. The Microsoft 365 account is the same as your email address. So in this case, I'm using Gabe at sharedbusinessvision.com. So I've logged into my account on my browser. So once I've logged in on my browser, I open another tab. You can see we have another tab up there. And then we go to this website here, aka.ms/MFA setup. This allows us to set up multi-factor authentication. So you just click it and it's like, oh, your organization needs more information to keep you secure. So we click on this to set up multi-factor authentication. It's going to require you to put in your password again. And once you've logged in, it says, oh, well, you should start by getting the app, the Microsoft Authenticator app. So then we switch over to our cell phone here. And in our cell phone, we go to the Play Store. I'm using Android. Type in Microsoft Authenticator app. Once you've typed that in, it will find the app. We need to choose Microsoft Authenticator app. You see it has that lock symbol. I've already installed it, so I'm just clicking to open. So you would install it, then open it. And you see you need to unlock it here. So what it's asking you to do is put in your PIN on your cell phone to unlock the Microsoft Authenticator app, giving you an extra layer of security, which is kind of great. So that's what I'm doing. I'm putting in my temporary, my cell phone PIN that I'm going to change later, don't worry. And now that that's done, it's blacked it out. I get to choose to add a work account. So let me back up a little bit before I do that, right? So let's see here. So right now it's telling us to get the Authenticator app. We have the Authenticator app. We've got it installed on our phone. So let's move forward on this video. So then what we do is obviously we click next, and it's going to take us to the next step. And what we're really trying to do here is to say, hey, with this account, we want to connect our cell phone to this account. So in order to log into your account, you have to have this connected cell phone using the Authenticator app to allow the login. So you can see that we have the app on the cell phone that I showed you before. You have to put in the PIN on your cell phone to get access to it. So all that's set up, and let's just skip this video forward a little bit, sorry. So right here, a little bit important. So set up your account. If you're prompted on your cell phone, you're going to choose to add an account, select work or school. So you select the work or school on the Microsoft Authenticator app, and you click next. And then, aha, it's prompting you for the QR code. So this QR code is time sensitive. So you need to do this all at the same time. If you try to scan it and you get a message that it's invalid, you may need to go back and regenerate it because you only have so long to scan the QR code. So once again, more security for Microsoft. So you can see here, we're on our app, we're clicking. I'm using my cell phone to take a picture of the QR code. Now, in my case, I was too slow, so I had to go back here and I had to redo the QR code because I kind of waited too long to scan it. So you'll see if we give it a little second, I click scan a QR code, my cell phone camera comes up, I aim it at the screen, it caught the QR code there, and now it's activating, and the account was added successfully. So this QR code tied to my Microsoft 365 account got added to my Microsoft Authenticator app. So once this is done, if we move this forward, you'll see that kind of fast forward here so we don't have to wait. Okay, so we've scanned the QR code. Once you've scanned the QR code on your app, you click next. And once you click next, bear with me here. Okay, now it's saying, oh, let's try this out. Let's really test it. So it's telling me to type in 71 on my authenticator app. So this is what I actually see. Are you trying to sign in? Yeah, you are trying to sign in. Enter the number here. So you can see the number they're talking about is 71. So let's try it out. So what I have to do here is I have to enter 71. So you'll see, type in 71. Yes, it's me. And let me go back there a little bit as well. So let's pretend you get this prompt, you know, enter the number here. Well, you don't have it. That means someone's trying to access the account. And this is the whole value of the Authenticator app. Right now, if there's no response by you, it's not going to happen. They're not going to be able to log in. So you can understand just having a username and password, the person could log in if they somehow had your compromised password. But since they don't have that with multi-factor authentication, they actually need this to happen. They need the cell phone to respond to the request. So you can see here it's saying, okay, put in the number 71 on your Authenticator app. So once again, I'll just kind of go through this. So we have to type in 71 and then click on yes. So that means yes, allow this login. And it's forcing me to put in my cell phone code, and it's saying yes, it's approved. So now this whole process is tied to my cell phone, and the Authenticator app has been registered and set up with my Microsoft 365 account. So that means when when I log in, I may be prompted by the Authenticator app every so often. So if we continue on with this video here, when you said yes on the cell phone, this program sees that you said yes, and it's like, oh, you approved the notification on the cell phone, and now it's asking me to type in my cell phone number as the last step. If you already had your cell phone number in your contacts in your Microsoft 365 account, then
To show you how to Microsoft app tied into your Microsoft 365 account. So once again, you go to the website I mentioned. I'm going to put that in the description. Go to that website after you've logged into your account, your Microsoft 365 account, and it'll prompt you through the whole process. So that is Microsoft multi-factor authentication. So here's a little bit of bonus information. So some key points and potential problems. These issues are all based on things that we've run into with our clients and when we were planning. Things to watch out for when you're setting this up for your organization. Hopefully, you're doing this well ahead of the deadline so you don't get rushed. If you do have issues, you have time to deal with it. So, the first thing is shared account. What if more than one person is accessing the same Microsoft 365 account? I have a few scenarios with my clients where two people share a computer. The computer is just at the work site, so they just log in the same accounts. So what you can do is add each person's cell phone to the Microsoft 365 account. You just scan the QR code on each person's cell phone at the same time. What about if you're adding the cell phone number to the Microsoft account ahead of time? Well, it's just one less step in the MFA process. If you don't do that, you're going to be prompted to respond with a text to your cell phone and provide the code. So if you put that cell phone number in ahead, you don't have to go through that step. If you're dealing with a lot of people, that saves a lot of trouble. And if that's done incorrectly, of course, you have to start again. Finally, maybe you have copiers that you scan to email. So you put a paper in your copier, you want to scan it and send it out over email to a client or someone. So I'm just going to read this out. This primarily depends on the capabilities of the copier itself and whether it's configured to work with Microsoft 365. As long as the copier supports authenticated SMTP or other methods of sending emails and is properly configured with the user's Microsoft 365 credentials, it should be able to send scans via email, even with MFA enabled on the account. You just have to make sure SMTP is enabled on the Microsoft 365 account and the copier works with it. And then finally, let's say you have everything done, set up. what I always do is I don't wait for Microsoft. I enable the security defaults when all the Microsoft accounts have been set up for that company or organization. This just helps you to verify if there are any issues prior to the deadline, because if there are issues, you can just turn off these security defaults. And I'll get to it a little later. You can turn off the way the way multi-factor works for each user. So you can redo multi-factor authentication. You can delete it so that that particular user doesn't have it. Of course, if the security defaults are on, it's forcing everyone to have it. So if you turn off the security defaults, you can go to one user that maybe can't set it up at the moment and just make sure that that one user does not have multi-factor authentication set up. If they tried to do it and it failed, you can delete it. So I'll get into that right here. So, the other thing to mention, let's pretend that you're doing this and you've got 10 people and you've got 9 of them all set up, but one of them is not. It's not going to require the use of multi-factor authentication unless you enable security defaults. But if you enable security defaults, then all 10 users will have to use it. But that 10th user, they're having trouble with it. So what you do instead is you go to each individual user, and as you can see here, you just enable the multi-factor authentication one user at a time. So if you have 9 that are using it fine, you just force it on 9 so that they can actually make sure Word opens or email. There's no issues. It's great to do a real proper test run of the real situation with all the users that have multi-factor authentication working. And a little bit more, this bonus material. If you have a problem with multi-factor authentication, you can just go into this window, which is the profile window for the user, and delete. You can just delete Microsoft Authenticator. You see there at the bottom right. You can just delete it. That's the fastest way to remove it. Another thing you can do is you can redo multi-factor authentication for a single user by going into that user account and then clicking to require re-register of multi-factor authentication. So the last thing I wanted to touch on is a little bit more nitty-gritty bonus material. So what are the Microsoft 365 security defaults? Well, I'm really harping on multi-factor authentication because that's what affects the majority of people. They try to log in, it says you need to set it up. People don't get it done. They get locked out of the account after 14 days. Then they can't work, right? So that's why I'm focusing on this first part, which is multi-factor authentication. I think I've covered that first point pretty good. Another aspect of the Microsoft 365 security defaults is blocked legacy authentication. So legacy authentication protocols are going to be blocked. Instead, we're using the modern authentication protocols. The legacy authentication protocol would be a thing like basic authentication, which relies solely on the username and password, and it doesn't support a modern feature like multi-factor authentication. So if you're using that kind of authentication in an old version of your email software, it won't work with multi-factor authentication, and it won't work with Microsoft 365 security defaults when they're turned on. Baseline protection policies, basically anti-phishing, mailbox auditing, spam filtering. So these are going to be enforced. So if some email is blocked, you need to be able to know how to find it in the spam filter. What can happen at times is people will say they've sent you an email and it shows that they sent it to you. It's in their sent items, but you don't see it in your inbox. You don't see it in your junk. Well, there's another spam filter in the Microsoft 365 ecosystem where you will find that email and you have to unblock it. So that's something to be aware of as well. The security defaults dashboard is a place administrators can access and take action to address any issues or concerns. So that's a benefit of the Microsoft 365 security defaults. And then just recommended security configuration. Microsoft recommends implementing additional security measures beyond the security defaults to further enhance security posture of the organization. So the main kind of value and benefit here to take away is that if we are logging into our Microsoft 365 and if it's your email and you have multi-factor authentication set up, it's pretty straightforward to get the app installed, go to that website I mentioned, which I'll put in the description, and ensure that your cell phone is required to log you into that device when you first get it set up and connected. Now, that device, let's say it's your laptop, it becomes trusted. If you try to go to another computer and you log in with your email address and password, it's going to require you to put in the code again. The number will come up, and you'll put in the number and say yes, and you'll get logged into that account on, say, a different computer. The same thing goes with adding it to your mobile device, like your cell phone or a tablet. You have to go through the process of logging in. It'll prompt you to type in, 71, yes, that's me, and you'll get connected to that device. So each device has to become trusted. Once it's trusted, it won't prompt you again, but you could be asked down the road to put in that code, and you'll be expected to have the Authenticator app. If you lose it, break it, if you have problems with your cell phone, whatever, you're able to just delete the MFA that's been set up and reestablish it. It's not that difficult. And then, you go to your laptop, you log in, your new setup on your cell phone will work once again, put in the code, and boom, it's going to be a trusted device again. So that's really the whole story that I wanted to cover with, preventing yourself from being locked out. I'm not really seeing I'm not really seeing too many comments, but I do see one right here. Let me take a better look. If I'm not a business, do I need to do it? And the answer to that is no. If this only applies to the Microsoft 365 business accounts, so that's a good question. If you have a Microsoft 365 personal account, to my knowledge, that it's not going to be included. Down the road, they may start doing it, but that's where we are. So I just want to let you know I appreciate you taking the time to look at this. And if there's anything I can do to help, let me know. I'm going to update the description to put in the website I mentioned to set up multi-factor authentication so that you can do it right away. Any problems, please comment or ask questions, and we'll try to get back to you as soon as we can. Okay, have a good day.